The Raptors are forced into a tough decision right now, specifically regarding Ochai Abagji, as Masai Ujiri gave up first-round draft capital to bring him in last season, and now have a big decision to make regarding his contract, especially with the emergence of some other players at his position. So we'll discuss that, including a major update on the Toronto Raptors' future if they do end up losing a few games this season. So lots of stuff to dive into, but before we do that, folks, again, if you're part of the over 67%, I haven't checked this number in a little bit, but over 67% that haven't hit the subscribe button just yet. I know we have a bunch of new viewers to the channel. Make sure you guys hit that sub button so you don't miss a single thing that's going on regarding this Toronto Raptors team. With Raptors basketball being back, we're all hyped, we're all amped up about what's going on with this team right now, so we got a lot of stuff to dive into. And right now, specifically regarding Ochai Abagji, as the Raptors are forced into a difficult decision right now, as Ochai Abagji was a guy that had me pretty excited when we acquired him at last year's trade deadline, and honestly has shown flashes, has shown moments of being a really effective player, especially on the defensive end for this Toronto Raptors team. However, there are some issues that have come with Ochai Abagji, specifically in regards to the offensive end, and that has led to some of the fan base being very split in regards to whether Ochai Abagji has that actual potential or not. And Blake Murphy essentially illustrated the big decision the Raptors have to make. Essentially, Ochai Abagji's situation is less obvious compared to Gradey Dick, whose contract is definitely going to get picked up. The fourth-year player option hold for 2025-2026 is worth $6.4 million, and if they pick up the option, they'd hold his restricted free agency rights in 2026. The fact that Ochai Abagji was the 14th pick 2 years ago, and the Raptors were eager to acquire him in a deal that sent out draft compensation, would suggest that this is a long-term investment, and that Ochai Abagji's option will be picked up. The Raptors are projecting to be a non-cap team this summer, and the $6.4 million salaries being useful for trade chips and making salaries work in trades. The downside here is minimal, even if he hasn't quite shown that he's a $6 million player per year yet. Now, that's all big points. I do think that just off of pride and instinct that the Raptors will end up picking up this option, but there has been a lot of criticism. I've seen a lot of people just come out and bash on Ochai Abagji, who last season, given a lot of run, given a lot of opportunities, averaged 6 points per game, 3 rebounds, 1.1 assists, and the 3-point percentage is the major sort of downfall. That's it's the big area of concern about his development, about his game. Shot 29% from the 3-point line on a pretty significant volume, and it's not like he's taking shots off the dribble. It's not like he is taking very difficult ones, and he's only making 36% of those shots from corner three. So it's not like even the spot up easiest 3-point shots are going down for Ochai Abagji there right now. And specifically in regards to his development, out there over the course of his career, he hasn't really taken any major leaps. In fact, his best season was his rookie year with the Utah Jazz, and then took a step back last season, and then with the Toronto Raptors, got traded to us, and the numbers just aren't really that high. He's been traded multiple times over the course of his career. Again, one was before his rookie season out there in the Donovan Mitchell trade, and then last year in the Kelly Olynyk Ochai Abagji for a first-round pick deal. So Ochai Abagji, he's been very split amongst Toronto Raptors fans, and to make matters even more interesting, make him even more difficult for Masai Ujiri, essentially, there's a few guys that are really showing some promise out there in the Toronto Raptors at that sort of wing shooting guard position. So, obviously Gradey Dick is a guy that's a monster. We drafted Jakob Poeltl out there in this year's NBA draft. RJ Barrett's looking like the team's best player right now. Again, that's a little bit of an exaggeration, but he's we haven't seen much of Scottie Barnes, but he's looking like a beast. But essentially, in that sort of shooting guard role, there's a lot of people that are going to be competing with an Ochai Abagji for these types of minutes. Again, Jamal Shed, Davion Mitchell look like both players that could be in the rotation, so one of them will have to play the two a little bit for this team, right? We have guys like Jameson Battle, who's really impressed a lot of Toronto Raptors fans in terms of his ability to knock down threes and be in this type of system. We also have Jahmi'us Ramsey, who played a lot of effective defense for the team last season, which is, again, Ochai Abagji's calling card. So, that's something to really take a look at there, because, again, Jahmi'us Ramsey's hitting more shots, he's hitting more threes, proven he's a little bit better of a ball handler as well, even though he was a late addition to the Toronto Raptors roster coming into training camp and things like that. DJ Carton's another guy that can be sort of one of those combo guards, and frankly, he's impressed me a ton with his athleticism, with his ability to shoot. Dealt with some injuries last season, which has, limited him from really getting some run the same way Ochai Abagji had the opportunities last year. So DJ Carton is a guy I don't want to completely write off in terms of being in this mix. And then we have, if you want to play Ochai at more of the forward position, right? You have out there, Jonathan Mobo. We have Chris Boucher who's trying to get some rotation run this season. We have a few guys that are really competitive in terms of these roster spots. It's not a sure thing, especially where Ochai Abagji's contract is going to be more expensive than these guys in the short term. And frankly, again, we haven't seen an insane jump in development, and he did have that concerning summer league, which scared off a lot of Toronto Raptors fans from being on the Ochai Abagji train. So while I think it does make sense to keep him, again, it's a tradable contract. He has an NBA elite skill out there on the defensive end. He's the best defender out of that list that we've seen so far, with the exception of the guards, the smaller guys. But I don't know. It's going to be interesting because obviously if Ochai Abagji can develop that jump shot, if he can knock down threes, he's going to be a very valuable piece for this Toronto Raptors team moving forward. But again, the jump shot, we need to see some more development out there on the offensive end. He did play solid yesterday's game, but missed his threes. So we'll see over the course of preseason what the Raptors have to decide, because again, it's by October 31st, and this decision does have to be made. And we're going to see a lot of opportunities from different guys. Even Roden is a player that is very intriguing. He wasn't on that sort of depth chart list, but as a scorer, as a bucket getter on the wing position for this Toronto Raptors squad. So very, very interesting stuff there. But we also have a very interesting situation right now. We have a major update on the Toronto Raptors direction. Now, this is something that's been alluded to by Masai Ujiri, by Darko Rajaković in quotes in regards to being year one of a rebuild and trying to build up the star power. And, frankly, in the trades that the Toronto Raptors made. But they view the 2025 and 2026 draft classes as being some of the best that they've seen, in the last few years. And apparently this is what draft experts are coming out and saying right now. As Evan Siri from Draft Express has come out and said, this is the best group of prospects I've seen in my 20 years of covering the NBA draft. And this is very, very big for the Toronto Raptors. So again, we have our draft pick this season. There's no concern about what's going on there. We have a Jakob Poeltl. We have Bruce Brown that should be able to command first-round picks if things do go south of this Toronto Raptors team. And even more intriguing, which I think has been overlooked a little bit in the eyes of Toronto Raptors fans, and the move that Masai Ujiri made this offseason when trading away Jalen McDaniels is yes, we got Donovan Mitchell. Yes, we got Sasha Vezenkov, who ended up just waving right away. We got Jamal Shed in that deal. But we also got the Portland Trailblazers second-round pick, which is projected. The Portland Trailblazers are going to be one of the worst teams in basketball this year. That should be in the early 30s, if not 31st, the same pick that we had Jonathan Bobo this season. So if we have the 30th pick, that's essentially another first-round pick out there in a loaded NBA draft class. So that's very encouraging. And the fact that this draft class is very good in terms of what's happening there, right? The Raptors could find themselves up in the upper echelon in terms of draft picks once again. Now, we saw I'm not trying to facilitate a tank, try to promote a tank this early on into a season to get excited about, but you got like guys like Cooper Flagg, Ace Bailey, you got Dylan Harper, you got a lot of wing players where the Toronto Raptors could add some depth pieces, could add some different guys. I mean, the Duke center there, he could be an interesting piece at the center's position. Again, we're gonna have to see a full year of college basketball, European hoops to really get a good feel on a lot of these players. But the fact that this is a loaded draft class and we're not dealing with the situation we did last year, where again we had to give up our draft pick, which ended up being Rob Dillingham, who's now on the Minnesota Timberwolves, absolutely dominating in his first game of preseason. So, the fact that we're not worried about giving up our draft pick and stuff in this year's class, which we would have if we ended up keeping that pick last season, it is that bit of a positive. Again, I would have liked to keep the draft pick last season, but that's just how it goes. But let me know what you guys think about all this Toronto Raptors news. Again, Raptors basketball is back. I'm pumped. I'm excited. Let me know what you guys think. Anyways, I'm signing out. Cheers.